Welcome to the Nana Churches show. Today I have with me a very powerful lady, a lady who has been able to conquer all the obstacles in her life to be an empowerment to ladies and the world. She is in the person of Jessie Thompson.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're looking amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So before we go, give me some tips. What keeps you looking all this
Well,
sweet and fresh?
So I'm wearing white every
Yes.
day because I'm on the board of a project called the White Dress Project for Uterine Fibroids.
Okay.
And it's a nonprofit that is dedicated to raising funds and awareness, funds for research and awareness for uterine fibroids. So that's why you've seen me wearing white every day.
Okay.
And outside of that, my daughter, who's 3, which we'll get into, has me running, so I have to stay slim. And she is a fashionista. I have to keep up with her.
Wow.
She lays out her clothes every night. She's really particular about clothes matching. So she says to me, Mommy, I like the necklace before I came.
Okay.
Mommy, I like it.
All right. That's cool.
So that's how she's my stylist.
So tell me, you've combated uterine fibroid. What is it?
Well, uterine fibroids are benign tumors that form in the uterus, right? They can be outside of the uterus, like connected to them. There are several different kinds inside in the uterine wall. And depending on the location and the size will determine whether or not it affects your fertility, creates pain, causes excessive hemorrhaging and heavy bleeding. Unfortunately, one of the stories in my book, which we'll get to later, she lost so much blood. She almost nearly died on the operating table giving birth to her child. So there's a magnitude of effects, cause and effects, related to fibroids.
I know African women also, have fibroids, and sometimes I wonder what causes that.
That is the million-dollar question, Nana. I mean, we wish we knew the answers. There are theories. They're most prevalent in women of color. 80% of women of color here in the United States are impacted by fibroids by age 50. 80% is an astronomical number.
Yeah.
As you can the number, right? But there's no clear. And that's why we're doing the work here, because there's no clear research on what's causing them, no clear research on how to prevent them. And we want to just raise the flag and say, hey, you know what? We need to literally garner and galvanize a movement to say it's time out. Women literally suffer from this silently, okay? And they there's shame associated with it when there's barrenness tied to it.
Yeah.
And they literally don't even talk about it. It's funny, I can't tell you how many women, whether it was interviews, whoever I was talking to this weekend, oh, I had fibroids. Oh, I have them now. Oh, my sister had them. My auntie, my niece is dealing with this now. It was constant, from celebrities to media, whoever it was. And when they said, you know what, I didn't find out it was in my family until I asked, because I got diagnosed. So the issue is no one's talking about it, right? So if you don't talk about it, then there's no awareness mandated, then there's no research mandated, and then guess what? There are no solutions. I mean, obviously there are better treatments now in terms of surgeries, but we don't want to get to the point where we need surgery.
Sure.
We want to prevent it, So there are theories that it's related to chemicals, that it's related to toxins in the environment, that it's genetic, but nothing is concrete. Nothing's concrete.
So you had several miscarriages?
I had one miscarriage.
One miscarriage.
Right, but I had, I battled fibroids for 14 years.
14 years.
Yeah, I actually got a hysterectomy. I had a hysterectomy in March, so just a few months ago, right? And it was literally now the end of my fibroid journey, right? But it started in 2001.
How old were you then, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 30 actually,
Okay.
And my husband and I had been married for almost 4 years, and we said, you know what, it's time to expand our family. We've enjoyed being married, and now it's time to add children to it. And we start trying actively, and nothing's happening. And at the same time, I'm noticing that I'm developing a belly. Now, I'm a small person, right? So if I have a belly, it's like, what's going on there? And so people want to ask you, are you pregnant? But you're like, no, I'm trying to get pregnant, you know? So here I found myself saying, you know what, let me talk to the doctor, see what's going on. We're not getting pregnant. Went to my OBGYN for a routine visit. And she said, well, you know, let me check. You may have fibroids, right? Find out I had fibroids. Now, I wasn't having pain because sometimes the symptoms can be pain. Again, it could be heavy bleeding. I wasn't having any of that. My symptoms were I had a bloated belly and I had infertility. Okay?
Wow.
So that started the journey. And do you mind me telling you the rest of the surgeries, right?
Yeah, I do.
So from there, it was 2001, 5 years later, the fibroids came back, okay? And I had severe pain. I had one that was located where it was causing pain during intercourse. So, I mean, excruciating pain, which you know, that's not good for a marriage.
Yeah.
And I was at some points I had so much pain I couldn't even walk, okay? And so I went to the OBGYN again. I said, something's wrong. Now I went to a new doctor. I said, I need some other opinions. I don't know what's going on here. And they came back so bad that now, where the first time I was cut like a bikini cut, now they had to cut me vertically, like from here to here.
Was it that big?
It was scattered throughout my uterus. So it wasn't just in like a specific location. And because I wanted to preserve my fertility, they had to cut me like that. Because otherwise, you know, they would say, well, do a hysterectomy. It's like, no, that's too drastic, you know? And laser wasn't an option because of where they were located in my uterus. And there are other options such as, it's called uterine artery embolization or uterine, it's UFE, uterine, or UAE. UAE is what I call it, uterine artery embolization. But that is a very minimally invasive procedure, but it's not good if you want to have children. And that's really important. Women think, okay, well, I'll do this surgery, but then if you want to be able to get pregnant and carry a child, that's going to affect your fertility and your ability for your uterus to carry a child. You'll miscarry, very likely, you know. So I had 2 more of those. So I had 3 myomectomies because they kept coming back. Other symptoms included, you know, sciatica. I don't know if you're familiar with sciatica pain, but there's a sciatic nerve, and it goes all the way down the back of your leg. Oh my God, that was incredibly painful. And then the last time they came back, I was hemorrhaging so bad, I almost needed emergency transfusion, you know. So with all that, I had 3 myomectomies before I had my daughter. Okay, so let's use my daughter as a switch point, right? So in the meantime, all of this time, now I'm starting to have to do IVF, and that's in vitro fertilization, because there's scarring on my fallopian tubes from the surgeries and from the fibroids, from having to remove them. So I couldn't get pregnant, but just naturally, I had to do in vitro fertilization, which is expensive. Okay,
very expensive.
So not everybody can just do in vitro fertilization. Most insurance companies don't cover it because it's an advanced reproductive technology. So there you have the financial implications, right, of fibroids. So I got pregnant the first time we did IVF in 2008, but we miscarried 10 weeks in, you know, and that was probably the most devastating period of my life. Because here we were so excited, we finally were pregnant, but you know, the heartbeat just stopped. We saw the heartbeat, you're excited and everything. A week, 2 weeks later, no more heartbeat, you know. But you know, it was early, it was our first IVF cycle, so we were encouraged. We can move on, we're still young, you know, 2, 3 more IVF cycles later, and we're still not pregnant again. And now, I'm disheartened. Okay, so I'm really, really at the point of giving up. Okay.
How you're giving up?
I'm tempted.
You're tempted.
Very tempted.
What about the family?
So my family was fantastic, right?
Okay.
And they're the reason. So first is my faith, and my husband is an amazing man of God, and he's so strong. And he said to me, you know, we're at the point. I said, baby, you know what? Let's adopt, because I said, you know. Every time I had surgery, what I didn't tell you is after my second myomectomy, I had to be opened up 10 days later again because the scar tissue from the surgery caused an obstruction in my small intestine, so I couldn't keep anything down.
Oh.
Okay, so 10 days after I had major surgery, they had to open me up again. All right, and I'll spare you the details of how bad that recovery was.
Yes, it's so scary.
But that recovery, I was in the hospital 21 days. Okay, I was down to 97 pounds. But anyway, so now the next myomectomy, my third myomectomy, they had to do cut out of my small intestine again because of scar tissue on it. All right, so now I'm up to 5 surgeries at this point. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
5 surgeries and 4 IVF cycles in, and I'm like, God, are we supposed to adopt? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm saying maybe I'm pursuing something that's not God's plan for me. And I said to my husband, you know what? We really believe in adoption. And we said, we always planned to adopt a child. And we said, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is God telling us. But my husband, he knew. He was like, he knew it wasn't. He knew. He said, I want you to pray about it. He said, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to support you with whatever decision you say, because it's not me on the operating table. You know, I knew though that he wanted a biological child. I knew it, and I knew he felt that it was supposed to be. And so I had this tension. One, on this side, my body is like, I don't want to go on the operating table again. I'm done with these hormones that are making me the fertility hormones that are causing me to act like a crazy lady with the mood swings and the rage. And quite frankly, you know, it's just the disappointment, the up and the down, and up and I'm like, you know what? But then on the other side, I love my husband and I trust him, I believe in him, and I want him to have this biological child that he wants. So here I am, you know, God, what do we do? So I'm at the throne, I'm praying. I'm like, you know what, God, one thing I know is you have a plan for us. And your plan is better than what I could dream up for myself, right? And I trust that. Like, that really is the foundation of my being, of everything I believe. And I said, if that's true, then I'll do what you tell me. So here I was, and the truth is, it was a crossroads, okay? And I was saying, God, I know you have a plan for my life. And I know that what you have is what's best for me. I trust you. I trust you. Please lead me and tell me, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to? Now, I've had, at this point, 4 IVF cycles, okay? I've had 3 myomectomies. I've had 2 small bowel resections, okay? So 5 surgeries, 4 IVF cycles, and almost 100-something days in the hospital between surgeries. And I'm like, God, in my heart, I just want him to say, adopt.
It doesn't work like that.
I'm just going to be honest. I was just like, oh yeah, what did you say? Adopt? Okay, adopt. But so I would say, and I really wasn't telling a lot of my family because I really wanted to be clear for myself. I knew and my husband I was like, well, you tell me, babe. You know, what do you, and he's like, you have to seek the Lord for yourself because you need to know for yourself. I don't want you to do this because of me, because you're going to put your body through a lot. And it has to be because you believe it's what you're supposed to do. So I did that, and I remember I woke up one morning and I had this compulsion to call my sister friend. Her name is Denise Mingo. And I had this, I knew it, just call her. Just like, it was like a small voice that said, call Denise. Okay, call Denise to talk about it, because now I'm kind of frustrated because I'm still not having an answer, but I just got, okay, call Denise. And I called her and we talked for hours. And for some reason in that conversation, it's like a boing, a light went off. And it was just like, everything made sense all of a sudden. Because what came to, and my husband kept telling me, Jessie, well, you did have a myomectomy, a 3rd myomectomy, and the doctor told you going in, he really didn't think he'd be able to save your uterus, okay? He said when you came out, you might have a hysterectomy. It was that bad, okay? And came out the surgery and he saved it. So that's a miracle, right?
That's a miracle.
And for the first time, my husband's job decides to cover IVF.
Oh, another miracle.
Yes.
Hey. Wow.
So, but I wasn't listening to any of this until this conversation. It just all kind of came together. And I said, you know what? Okay, that's it. I'm supposed to do this. You know, God has provided the way. It became like this yellow brick road, clear. I need to do it, right? And then on top of that, let me tell you how good God is. A few weeks late, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
my godmother calls me up and she says, Jessie, I was at a prayer meeting and they were praying for women who were believing God for babies. And I stood in the gap for you. I went in and I stood in the gap. And what I got is that you, by this time next year, you'll be pregnant. You will be holding your baby in your hand.
Oh,
That's what she
my
said.
God.
She says, by this time next year, you'll be holding your baby in your hand. Now, she didn't know about this decision I was trying to make. Of course, she knew we had been trying to get pregnant for
Yeah.
years at this point, but I had purposely tried to keep it a small conversation. And let me tell you what else. At this point, since I had that decision,
Yeah.
the IVF cycle that we were going to start, the timeline,
Yeah.
we would have a baby about a month at that time from when she said I would be
Okay.
holding my baby in
Baby,
my
yeah.
hand. So I was like, okay, God, thank you for that confirmation.
Yes.
So I really did hear from you, right? So at this point, we go ahead and we did the IVF cycle and we got pregnant. Woohoo! I mean, it was amazing. Yay! We cried, my husband and I, we cried and cried and
Oh,
cried
my
and cried
goodness.
and cried. And we just rejoiced, you know. And you feel like there's this big,
Weight lifted.
I can exhale, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh, there's a but.
there's a but.
Oh dear.
So I was a high-risk pregnancy because I
Okay.
was 39 years old at the time, and I had had all these complicated
Yeah,
surgeries.
yeah.
And so I'm going to see a high-risk OBGYN. And they're like, okay, well, we're just going to monitor you
Yeah.
frequently, you know. And I'm going for my routine visits, and everything looks good. I mean, fantastic.
Perfect,
I'm
yeah.
feeling fine. And then at 21 weeks, at a routine sonogram,
Oh.
my doctor, you know it's coming,
Oh,
right?
it's coming.
You know it's coming. I see like my mother-in-law, I call her my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is with me.
Yeah.
My sister is with me, and the doctor's like, the technician is doing the sonogram, but she's like whispering to the doctor, and then he's asking questions, and then they're whispering back and forth, and I'm like, what's
Oh.
going on here?
Oh.
Okay, something's not right,
Right.
because all of this is not normal,
Yeah.
right? And then after it, he says, oh, well, Mrs. Thompson, you know, come into my office. Well, come into your office for what? I don't normally come into your office.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, what is he about to tell me? I sit in that chair, and thank God, my husband was actually, he just got his first executive job at his company. He's a finance executive. And he was actually working 3 hours away in Schenectady, New York. And so he was coming home on the weekends, right? So he wasn't there with me at that visit, but thank God I had my mother-in-law, and my sister. And he says, okay, Mrs. Thompson, there has been a change in you have developed a condition called fetal growth restriction.
Oh, dear.
Okay? He said the fetus is not growing at the rate it's supposed to. It's something called there's absent blood flow. So there's the blood flow is going, but then there's an absence where there's a gap. Okay? So the baby's not getting the blood flow.
Yeah.
Now the nutrients are from the blood flow.
Yeah.
Baby's not getting the blood flow it's supposed to. Okay? So now he proceeds to tell me how he doesn't think I'll be pregnant for anything more than 6 more weeks. I'm 21 weeks.
Yeah.
Pregnancy for another 6 weeks, and the baby is abnormally small. Okay?
Yeah.
He says to me, Mrs. Thompson, you might want to consider terminating the pregnancy.
Oh my God.
This is 2011. This is 10 years in.
After. I don't.
It took me 10 years to get to
get
this
here.
point, and you're telling me I might want to. And he was a lovely man. He was just telling me because of what he said, my womb was going to become a hostile environment, and the baby would not, would have many complications, not viable at this point. It's just so many things. I said to him, Dr. Rocherson, I'm a woman of faith, and I have a miracle working God.
Amen, sister. I like
Said that is not going to be the end. That's not the end, okay? And he said, I've been practicing medicine long enough to know
they say.
that there are things you can't explain. So he said, we'll just buckle up and go for a ride and do what we can, right? So now he's monitoring me more frequently, Now, of course, I was upset about this diagnosis, and but I knew, I was like, God, I know you're with us. You told me. Now, remember that word.
Yeah.
You told me I'll be holding my baby in my hands a year from now. I'm cleaving to this, right? Because I'm saying, you know what? Now I know why I had to know for myself.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah.
I'm just getting goosebumps as I'm saying this. Now I know why I had to have that clarity.
Yeah.
That it had a beginning and it had an end. And the end was healthy baby, healthy mommy.
Yeah.
I was holding my baby in my hands a year from now. Got me?
Yeah.
So here with that faith, I said, okay, we're going along for the ride. We're going for regular, the sonograms are like every other week now. And at 26 weeks, he says, Mrs. Thompson, we're going to have to admit you to the hospital today. Because now the condition has worsened.
This is a long ride.
It's a long ride. It's not absent blood flow. Now it's reversal. The blood flow is now being pulled away from the baby. And you want to know why? What was the baby competing with? Fibroids. Again. Because, remember, I had that third myomectomy. He saved my uterus, but he wasn't able to get the little ones, right? Yeah. I was bleeding so much. They got everything they could. And here now, those little ones were growing and challenging, just threatening my baby's life. So, I have prayer warriors everywhere like, no, this is not going to be. So the doctor admits me in the hospital, and they're telling me, listen, you know what? We're just hoping, because I'm saying, well, how long am I going to be? This is for the day? What is this? It's just for monitoring? Well, no, until we don't know, it's until you have the baby. But here's the caveat. With this condition, we don't anticipate that you're going to make it past the weekend. We're hoping that you hold on until Monday, because it was a Thursday, okay? So I'm saying, oh no, this baby's not coming on Monday. This is not anywhere near time, okay? Let me backtrack for a second. I forgot to tell you, the week after I had that first diagnosis, my husband comes into he was back home, he came to the doctor with me, and he wanted to hear for himself this whole diagnosis. And the doctor says, he says to the doctor, he says, Mr. Dr. Rocherson, he says, I know you're saying the fetus is not viable. How long does it need to be before it's a viable pregnancy? And the doctor said, 28 weeks. 28 weeks, we're in a good place, right? He said, Dr. Rocherson, my little man, because he thinks it's a boy. Okay.
Every man wants a boy.
He thinks it's a boy, so he's telling everybody it's his little man. He says, my little man is going to give you between 32 and 33 weeks, okay? Yeah. Mark my words.
Great.
Mark my words. So we're going back to where I was in the hospital. He asked the nurse, the doctor, that it was another doctor on the staff, so, when can I take my wife home? She's admitted, how long is this going to be? She said, well, Mr. Thompson, honestly, we're hoping she makes it to the weekend because, when this condition worsens, you have no more than 72 hours. Textbook. Okay? So my husband says, no, doctor, nope. I'm telling you, this baby's not ready. She's not coming anytime soon. So I'm checked now. I'm being tested 4 times a day. Heart fetal monitors. I'm having sonograms every day. I'm in the hospital for the rest. Now, every day. There are scares, there are scares. I'm being rushed. They don't know if I'm going to have an emergency surgery, if I'm going to have an emergency, C-section. But God's faithfulness to the tune of between 32 and 33 weeks.
Yay, that's what your husband said.
That's what he said.
The power of one.
And he spoke it in faith.
Wow.
And that's when they scheduled my C-section. They were like, you know what? Baby's good. Every day, like, we have another sunrise. Okay, we have another. They're like, what is this? We've never seen this before. One doctor actually told me, it was a Saturday morning on one of my tests, it was my sonogram. He said, now we're past 28 weeks at this time. He said, Mrs. Thompson, I'm sorry, I just got to tell you, we didn't mean to scare you, but you have to understand, we've never seen this before. This is a textbook, 72 hours is all you had. But God.
Amazing.
Understand?
Amazing.
But God.
It's amazing.
So my daughter's born. Now, more complications. We have the C-section where, it took them an hour to get to her. We had 2 surgical teams. I had the OBGYN team. I had the general surgery team because of the complications with my small intestines in the past, with the scar tissue. It took them an hour everything was stuck with the scar tissue to get to her. And somehow that caused my heart to stop on the operating table. Something happens. I'm like, what just happened? And the anesthesiologist tells me, Mrs. Thompson, we're going to put you under general anesthesia. I'm sorry, we have to take the baby out. We have to put you under to finish. Okay? And all I heard the baby cry, and then I'm out. So I didn't even get to hold my baby or see her. I don't even know if I knew I had a girl, until I woke up out of recovery in the hospital room, and I was so weak from the complications, I couldn't even go see her in the NICU until the next morning. But she was a healthy, she was 2.5 pounds.
Hey, I'm so excited.
Feisty. I mean, those nurses said, shit, that little girl, she's feisty. She was fighting the nurses. She didn't want the eye patch on her eyes for the jaundice treatment. She was 2.5 pounds of all just power, love, joy. I mean, she was fighting in that womb. I mean, she came in this world defying the odds. And every one of my doctors says, she is a miracle. She wasn't supposed to be here.
A miracle baby.
So
how old is she now?
She's going to be 4 in September. So she's 3 right now.
I can't wait to meet this little
Oh my
princess.
God, she's amazing.
So in all that you've put in, it's in a book.
Yes.
Hope Beyond Fiber.
Yes. So Essence Magazine graciously actually did a profile on my story last Mother's Day, in their last Mother's Day issue.
Yeah.
And it was on in the magazine, on their website, on their social media pages. And when it hit their social media pages, it went viral, like quickly. It was, I was just like, I'm not a celebrity, what? I'm just an everyday woman. But the numbers were, I was like, I'm not Lupita, you know what I mean? And, but I was getting comments. The comments were very detailed. It wasn't just liking it on Facebook. They were sharing it. It was like over 1,500 shares. It was over 33,000 likes. And then, but the comments were like, thank you for sharing your story. Your story has given me hope. Thank you. I was just at the point of giving up. Thank you for sharing your story. I had husbands reaching out to me. I had, the women wanting to be mothers. And then I also had women saying, wow, thank you for sharing. I have a miracle baby story too, And I was like, oh my God. Well, if my one story could inspire all these people, how much if we pull together a book of testimonies of all these wonderful, amazing stories I'm hearing, and just say, you know what? Like, I don't know if you ever had those little book of promises. It's like books, things that you read when you're dealing with, working on your finances, or you're dealing with, you need encouragement. You're dealing with, relationship issues. I was like, well, we need something when you're dealing with believing God for a baby, and also navigating a journey of health, issues, dealing with the, having a child. And as I started doing that, I put, Essence put out that I was going to write a book now. I was like, oh my God, I have to write a book because everybody's asking me about a book. And I have to say, before this, I'm a brand strategist. I'm working with talent. I'm usually behind this camera saying, okay, these are your talking points to my clients, okay? And here I am, I'm like, I never dreamed of writing a book. I never dreamed of being in front of the camera, okay?
And coming on the Nana Chacha show.
And coming on the Nana Chacha show. But here it was, God's plan for me was exceedingly, abundantly, above all I could ask, think, or imagine. I get to help women navigate the emotional and mental challenges that they face now. Navigating the infertility, the fibroids, whatever it is they're trying to have their dream. And their dream is whether it's adoption, it can be surrogacy, it can be a biological, whatever the path is. And I had one of my clients said to me, Jessie, you know what's so powerful about what you do? Because there are coaches and therapists galore, right?
Yeah.
But what's different about what you offer is that you've actually been there.
Exactly.
Like you've been, but you haven't just been through a little, like you've been through a lot. So there isn't much I can tell you that you haven't been through, you know? And so that helps me, first of all, to trust what the counsel is, right? And also to be able to have the information from a source that knows firsthand, you know? So I get to say, you know what? I had a client say to me, I had a myomectomy and I had a hysteroscopic one and I had a regular myomectomy. I don't think my uterus can handle a baby now. I said, darling, your uterus can handle much more than that. You know, I told I've had 5 fibroid surgeries and I have a baby, you know.
This
so
is amazing.
That was amazing, right? And now God gave me the extra opportunity of working on the advocacy side where with the White Dress Project, we get to actually fight the fibroids epidemic.
So I need to go get my white dress.
Get your white dress.
And take it to London and Africa. And
that's right. And
you never know.
Continue the cause.
Continue the cause.
Because nobody's talking about it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. So where can we find your book, Hope Beyond Fibroids?
Hope Beyond Fibroids, Stories of Miracle Babies and the Journey to Motherhood is available online everywhere, directly at hopebeyondfibroids.com, or it is actually available on Amazon, BNN.com. We're booksellers everywhere. So
that is powerful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having
for coming on our show.
Oh my God,
very
it's an
inspired about your story. And
thank you.
Lots and lots of women, families, you know, because your husband was in this too.
Yes.
So it's not
actually
just a woman.
one of the stories is actually written from a father.
From a father.
Because we wanted to have the male perspective, and it's different. You know, he was real rugged about it. And I cry every time I read that story.
Wow.
And we also have added a coaching guide in the book because we wanted not just for the people going through it, but for people who are supporting them to help navigate it. And we also have a fibroids FAQ for people who they're just trying to figure out what is this, how can I expect? And we have a glossary of terms for people who don't know what a hysterosalpingogram or in vitro fertilization or any of these things.
And even our Freddie, our camera guy, didn't even know. So we've all learned something today.
I'm so happy.
And we know this story is going to inspire as many beyond.
Oh, that's my dream.
Beyond.
That's my dream, is that somebody will say, my sister is my life coach. She's actually the co-author of the book, Coach Felicia.
Okay.
And she said to me, never quit.
Never quit.
You may know how far you've come, but you don't know how close you are.
We could go on and on and on because it's a wonderful, wonderful story. And so get the book and Hope Beyond Fibroids, Stories of Miracle Babies and the journey to motherhood. It's a book that you want to get for friends, for a family, for a couple, and you never know what a blessing you'll be to them. Thank you, Jessie, again for coming on our show. And I know this is the beginning of a wonderful journey.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. And I hope you will tune in another day for another exciting, inspiring, and motivating story. Thank you.